Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective podcast. Today, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Susheel Tadikonda, who is a multi-time executive and is currently going to be getting into deep tech venture capital space, essentially. Now, I would love to start off with your background, Susheel. So tell me a little bit more about your background and how it led you to leading at the executive level.
Okay. First off, thanks, Aryan. Thank you for having me over. I know we've connected just out of the blue, but I think we had some good, interesting conversations to start with. So, if you want me to start talking about a bit about my background, see, I grew up in a household where kind of uncertainty was normal. My father was a police officer, and he was often posted in very difficult regions, if you understand, in India. So early on itself, I saw what pressure and risk really look like, because there are quite a number of times where I wouldn't see my dad for many months. Okay. Here, it's not just that you understood the pressures, not just about his professional pressures, but also political pressures in the which you kind of work under. So early on itself, I decided that I needed to chalk my own path, not the way of my father used to do it. And a big part of that is for me to come to the United States. Okay. But just to give you that background a bit, I mean, growing up itself, I was a very, very confident student. Okay, probably a bit overconfident. This is one reason that I want to bring that up, because what happened is that overconfidence, it showed up when I made a very simple mistake when I was applying to my favorite university in India, and I messed up and I didn't get in. Okay, and the reason I say that is because the movement really reset me in my own career, which is why I want to bring it up. Because what happened is, because of this cockiness of mine, I didn't apply to a whole bunch of places. So I had to settle to a university which wasn't my caliber at all, right?
Okay.
But anyway, I mean, that what it taught me at the very time itself, that talent alone is just not enough. Okay, you need to have absolute discipline, and you need to have attention to detail. This is something that I learned in the most practical way. And that because the reason it is important for me is because it changed the path of my career itself. Because when I came to the United States to do my master's program, I struggled initially, because I was competing with students from the top global schools, and my fundamentals were not in the same zone as they were. So I had to rebuild my fundamentals and confidence from scratch. I mean, it so happened that I was blessed to have one of the best professors, Dr. Schroeder, who guided me through the fundamentals, made me interested in the whole field of device physics, which is what I ended up taking up. Then I also had a good host family with whom I befriended back in the university days, who kind of helped me get accustomed to the American way of life. So the reason I'm saying this little incident is that sometimes when you take a wrong path in your own thing, a new path opens up. For me, these were the people who helped shape the way I got interested in what I was doing, because this is how I ended up with my first job at Intel. Okay,
right.
Because professionally, I spent all of my career building silicon and systems for advanced computing. And my first job at Intel was the one that actually shaped my entire thinking throughout my career. Okay, because this was a time when our CEO Andy Grove was there, with whom I was absolutely impressed. He was someone, if you watch him, the way he worked and way he approached, and his own philosophy, only the paranoid survive, is what has shaped me in my career. Okay,
very interesting.
Because, from then on, I went on to work in different companies, public companies and startups. Okay, primarily in the semiconductor space. Okay, I've run companies engineering for the entire development of silicon as well as systems. All right, And that essentially is my background in a nutshell from a professional perspective. So please
Right.
go ahead if
Absolutely.
you have any.
So what was very interesting is you said something about the leadership style of your CEO at the first company, Intelcore. It
Mhm, mhm,
was the
mhm.
paranoia or being paranoid essentially. So tell me more
Yeah.
about how that influenced the rest of your career and more about what do you take away from it?
You know, there was he Andy Grove always used to give us a very famous quote. What it said is, it says, "Silicon never lies." Okay, what does that
Mhm.
mean? What it means is that what you put into the silicon is what you're going to get. No matter how much of papers you write, how much of theory and models that you guys create, what goes in is what comes out. So that is where the whole paranoia comes in, that during this whole development process, every step we had to be diligent, because once you put it in, and that's what it goes out. And every time, if a silicon has to be spun, it is
Mhm.
additional expense that comes in. Okay, the cost is very
Mhm.
high. So our goal
Mhm.
was always to get the first pass silicon, and the only way to do that was to be very, very diligent and careful. Remember, diligence is something that I
Precise.
my own life. So it's a combination of that, and that very famous little thing which says silicon never lies. If you
Mhm.
if you think about it, and you club it up with the paranoia, and that's how you build world class silicon.
Excellent. That had to make you a bit more precise in the way you thought and executed in the rest of your career.
Yes,
So
yes. I
bringing
mean,
it to go ahead.
like when I say that it shaped a lot of my career, in the sense that this is something which is like your DNA. It becomes part of your thought process. So as you're
Certainly.
approaching the entire silicon development, no matter which company I went to, you always fundamentally have that in the background. Okay, and
Mhm.
and and, and I'm an extremely diligent person in terms of going through details.
Right.
Okay,
Because you
which
had to.
helped me shape what my career was, and it is going to help me as I'm moving forward.
Mhm. So subsequently in your career, we see you take on more leadership roles. I've
Yeah.
seen director roles, vice president, and at companies that are larger enterprises. Now,
Mhm.
thing that was very particularly interesting about your background was leading a global team. Now, what's very interesting about leading a global team is essentially potential issues of clash of culture, potential issues
Yeah.
of management. How do you navigate that circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that also comes with experience. Um, I have built teams across the globe, in
Mhm.
all the continents. Okay,
Mhm.
um, uh, even Australia. So every place has a different style of working. Okay,
Mhm.
you take a person from Japan and you take a person from France. Very
Mhm.
contradictory way of working. So given the way I've been brought up, okay, going back into who my father was, and the way we were brought up by my mom and all that, it kind of instills a certain level of maturity and confidence in the way you approach things and people. Okay, so
Mhm.
it's very important what some of the fundamentals that, as we are growing up, you're pretty young in your own life, but some of these things actually help you when you're working with different cultures. You need to have the patience, you need to have the ear to listen, and you need to have the understanding of how these people operate and how they behave. Like
Mhm.
if I'm in Netherlands, for example, and I'm working with a team, or in Finland, you will never see them argue with you. Yeah,
Right. Right.
you will never see them. That it's always yes, right? And if you go to Japan, for example, because of the hierarchical way of operating, they will never say anything to you.
Mhm.
Okay, just nodding the
Right.
head. You got to keep in mind that there are subtleties that you observe as you work with these people, and those are the things that really help you
Mhm.
to be on top of things. Because as these cultures figured out that you have understood them, and then you're trying to be part of them and not being an alien to them, they
Mhm.
all adapt to you. Okay, it's
Right.
about winning trust. You have to win trust of your team, and you have to be an unbiased person.
Very interesting.
Okay?
So you're showing them that
And
you understand
sometimes
them.
you, and not sometimes, quite a lot of times, you have to be the bridge between your own team members in one part to the other, because not everybody can have that sense of maturity in a way.
That takes this very specific kind of leader to be the bridge amongst global teams specifically and to bring your own culture of workforce to a different one. So the question really is, how do you become that bridge as an individual, or in your leadership style, how did you approach becoming that bridge?
How did I become the bridge? Um, the role in which you are in, you automatically become that bridge, because
Hmm.
if 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 the teams do not operate the way someone's trying to reach me, but anyway, if the let me just mute this up. Okay,
No problem.
so if the teams do not operate at that level, then things start breaking up. So the role, the because of your responsibility itself, it's a natural entitlement. I would say that of
Hmm.
becoming the bridge, but quite a lot of times you got to understand, when you have teams in different parts of the world, everything boils to one thing: clarity in communication and
Hmm.
responsibility.
Hmm.
Okay, you need to be able to articulate the vision very clearly to the team. You need to be able to articulate and share the development and performances across the different teams, so that every team is kept in sync. Because remote teams typically, since they are not in the headquarters, they can tend to move away, because they'll drift, rather you say that, because they don't have the full information. So
Hmm.
information is the key when you want to operate across the different globe, and this is how you become the bridge. Remember, when you have information, when you have vision that is just shared in a timely manner, I think the teams start coming together very well, because now you're talking the same language, now you're talking the same points of contention, right? And that's how you bring the things to fruition.
Excellent. So not only have you been able to lead these teams, you've also built these teams, meaning you've set up a hiring process, or you've been through the hiring process yourself.
Yes.
How did you choose talent for specific kind of projects you had to execute?
Sorry.
How did you pursue choosing the correct talent in terms of
choosing
building these teams?
choosing the correct talent. I mean, we are in a semiconductor industry, and it's a, even though it's big, it's kind of small in a way. You know quite a lot of people that you work with. So one part of the talent acquisition is always, most of the time, is through references, because
Mhm.
people who know my style, people who have people that they know and they refer. So you go through referral system a lot when you look at it. But irrespective of that, that is sourcing. Once beneath the sourcing, I think it's important for us to understand how these people actually gel into the team.
Mhm.
Okay, you mentioned international teams within local itself, right? Forget international. Within that particular region itself, you need to be able to build a team that can actually gel, right?
Right.
So me, as someone, even though I've had a huge organization, I tend to be part of every hire that is done. It's not
Sure.
micromanaging, but it is, what I do is I spend 15 minutes of the time with the person, just to understand how they think, how they talk, or how they approach to simple specific problems, and to see if they can be a fit into the culture, or we can even mold them to be part of the culture. So for me, the culture is very important. Okay.
Mhm.
For a successful company, the culture running from the top to bottom, starting from me down, has to
Mhm.
be, has to be intact. So you need
Mhm.
to look at technical qualities. Of course, you have the teams who do the grind of looking at the candidates' talent, but
Mhm.
making sure that they fit into the culture is very important, I feel.
What were the leading indicators that an individual would fit the culture or could be molded to be fitting the culture?
I don't, I don't know how to put in terms of an indicator
Mhm.
as such. I think quite a lot of it goes down to the very gut feel that you get, because you've been running your organizations, you know the kind of problems that we try to face,
Correct.
and you can see the way the person approaches problems. right? And you can see in this course of it, I'm a good personality reader, by the way, right?
Mhm.
So in the course of it, you do tend to figure out, certain things about people, and you're pretty much right most of the time, except for a few cases in which
Mhm.
you can't read it. So it comes with a lot of experience that that you go through it. The soft skill side of it, the technical side of it, we have a very good way of doing interviews. We put people through real
Sure.
problems, right? We look at
Sure.
real problems, and it's a brainstorming session. Nobody has perfect answer, but we look at how you think and how
Right.
you approach. But the
Very
soft skill
interesting.
side of it is a different uh, ballgame itself.
Absolutely. So you've been a part of larger enterprises and you really understood this industry quite well. Now we're seeing you navigate into venture capital. So tell me a little bit more about that transition and what you learned from leading at this executive level that allow you to really help other companies.
You mean you? So let me give you a little background on what I'm trying to do in the
Please.
quantum world, right? And then we can try to answer. See, now that I've been doing all this stuff in here, I really wanted to take a step back to do something which is very different and very passionate from this perspective. So when you look at the global politics today, the political situation
Mhm.
around the globe, every country is now positioning itself to be sovereign in its own
Mhm.
technology rights, right? Quantum is one of the next big waves that is out there. It's some of it is understood, some of it is not understood. It's an evolving space, but every country is kind of scared and afraid of the way this technology can shape itself. Okay,
Mhm.
so that's where the interest came in, and then coincidentally, it so happened that India, some of my classmates and stuff are also driving this initiative in India. So I got involved with the government, and my journey on this one started. So the primary thing with India, since I built a lot of companies in India, is that India has always been a service oriented country. Okay,
Sure.
building products is not been our forte.
Mhm.
Okay, as much as you think it is not. So now what even the government has realized that, so they're putting a lot of money into saying, okay, we got to do more of these kind of project oriented or product oriented companies.
Understood.
Okay, so that kind of gave me the incentive to say, okay, I'm going to take my product experience. I built so many products in my life. I'm going to take that experience to India, because in the space of quantum, the world's leading talent in quantum is in India. Okay, so here's an opportunity to make something for India, to put India on the
Mhm.
global map, at the same time make it for the world.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
and that's how I embarked on this particular thing, and I started my venture studio. It's called Kindra. It's a venture studio and a fund together, primarily focused on creating startups in quantum and deep tech.
Right.
Okay.
So what was interesting is you said before we were talking on this podcast, actually, we were discussing your more hands-on approach as a venture studio. So tell me more about how you plan to be a bit more hands-on.
So, I mean, we are a small set of folks who've started this, but a venture studio is kind of different from typical ventures, venture
Hmm.
capitalists and stuff who put money and go. Venture studios, actually you become part of the company. Okay, so what the
Hmm.
difference is that as a studio, you co-found a company along with the researcher or whoever it is. We typically work on ideas coming out of universities, and that's why I'm entrenched in all the universities in India, most of them. So we typically work start from there. And in order to make these kind of startups successful, you've got to roll up
Hmm.
your sleeves. Okay, because what I'm trying to build is companies who who are started by scientists, professors, students who have never done companies before.
Exactly.
So that's why you have to roll up your sleeves and be part of them. I mean, at some point I can't scale myself, but
Hmm.
I'm building a team which is kind of my own way of working, or the skill sets that I have. I'm trying to assemble the team which will also go and help these different startups uh,
Certainly.
co-build. Yeah.
And those who are starting companies, are typically going to be at the age bracket and the professional experience bracket where they don't have that yet. So rolling up the sleeves is going to be required to a degree so they can become successful.
That's correct.
So I would like to now shift this conversation to more about you, Susheel, and more on the personal level. So the first question I have for you is, what is something about you or your life that you wish more people knew about?
That I'm what?
What is something about you or your life that you wish more people knew about?
Sorry, you cutting
No
off
problem, no
towards.
problem. What is something about your life that you wish more people knew about?
Oh, more people knew about.
Yes.
Wow, that's an interesting question and a good question. I should say that.
It's a hard question, right?
It's a thought provoking question, right? Look, given the kind of family that I was brought up, I always go back to that. I have my mom's intellect with my dad's bravado-ness. Okay, in the sense, my dad was never a quitter. All right. So anything that I take up, I never quitted, no matter what. All right. And
Like
this
that.
is kind of perseverance that you absolutely need, in the kind of ventures that I'm embarking on. And the second most important thing with me is I don't let my partners down. Okay. When you form something together with partners, you ride it through ups and downs. You got to figure out a way to work through things. So my steadfast nature and my nature of I'm a people's person at the end of it. Okay, I can figure out people pretty well. I can make people come together. I can make people work together. So I think these are two very important attributes I feel, which will help me with my journey going forward. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. I mean,
Perfect.
I
Well,
one of the important things was I went to Harvard Business School to hone in on a skill set which I didn't have, which is more on the business side.
sure.
Okay, that's what is
Right.
going to help me as I move forward.
And absolutely. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and share a very quick and concise perspective regarding health and fitness, and then we'll go ahead and conclude the podcast with Susheel's plans for next year. The perspective I want to share today is really about the general approach to health and fitness, particularly for executives and entrepreneurs. As you know, Susheel, most of my audience are entrepreneurs and executives. So the issue that a lot of people have is when they approach trying to pursue weight loss or approach making a physical transformation, is that they try to go forward with a location dependent approach. What do I mean by a location dependent approach? I mean going to a gym, going to a studio, and relying on that as a primary way to make a physical transformation. The problem with this approach is that not all individuals have the same capacity to go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. The time commitment, the amount you have to take to drive there and back, transport, that's time that potentially not all individuals have. Therefore, it could be very difficult to actually achieve the success long term. So how do you restructure this to be actually work? Instead of focusing on a location dependent approach, you have to focus on a location independent approach, and one that adapts to your schedule as opposed to you making time for it. Now, one example I would give is leveraging something like step count. Step count is actually what I personally use to lose over 70 pounds and actually keep it off successfully, as we've seen here. The idea is you want to hit the same requirements, but do it in a way that is far more efficient. So instead of focusing on a location dependent approach, focus on a location independent approach so that you can achieve this goal on a long-term basis. And one that can, of course, adapt to your schedule as opposed to you making time for it by going to a gym. So hopefully that provided a different perspective and one that is more doable for individuals who don't have that much time as compared to the average individual. So hopefully that was valuable. What we'll do now is go ahead and shift this conversation to Susheel's plans for this year, whether that'll be professionally or personally.
Okay. I mean, I saw the picture you flashed. I mean, I'm very impressed. By the way,
Thank
that's
you.
my goal. That's where I need to get to. Okay, so we'll have a separate conversation around that.
Perfect.
Yeah?
Sure. Awesome.
So I think you asked me what my plan was for the next year, correct?
Hmm.
I think over the next next 12 months or so, as part of this venture studio that I'm focused on, I mean, we will be very much focused on execution.
Okay.
Okay, we have put a lot of fundamental pieces in places, MOUs, getting in connection with universities, everything. So it's all about execution now. The goal is that we want to launch at least 5 startups from the studio this coming year. Okay,
Hmm.
and we also want to build out our founder ecosystem, right? That means we can have any founders that we are trying to do. They go through a grind of how to become a founder, right? We provide them infrastructure accesses, everything in place. So think of it as an incubator in itself, right?
Hmm.
And we are also trying to bring global collaborations. Like I have collaboration with MIT and
Hmm.
also an accelerated Luminet. I'm trying to bring them into India, which
Excellent.
is part of that, and
Excellent.
this year will be launching it. So this will help our founders become real founders. Okay, I want to groom them into being founders. Now on the capital side, right? Remember we are a fund.
Hmm.
We are setting up the AIF, which is the investment fund in India. We are also setting up a Singapore feeder so that the funds can come from outside to India through the feeder fund. And we want to close
Hmm.
out our first fund. I mean, that is a big activity for our first year. So I think essentially this first year is all about activating my full stack. That
Hmm.
means the companies, that means the talent, that means the capital. Okay.
Excellent.
If we can show, if we can show that India can produce such globally competitive startups, deep tech startups, I should say that, this will be a big win for me for my first year.
Absolutely. And where do people learn more about you? Is LinkedIn a good place?
LinkedIn is a great place for people to get connected to me, and then I take it from there after that. So let's just keep it at one place, which would be LinkedIn, and
Perfect.
I'm pretty regular with that one. So and then I can work with whoever is interested after that.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining me, Sushil. This was a pleasure. This was Aryan